Okay, my name is Shannon, and welcome to my podcast. In this podcast, we will be talking about my amazing upcoming wrestling video game, Spot Callers. Now, some of you may have already heard about the game, some of you may not have heard about the game, but don't worry, I am here to fill you in on exactly what is going on. Spot Callers is a PC-based wrestling game that will be released on Steam in Q1 of 2020. I have been working on this game for the past few months dedicated, but for the past few years in my mind, and I have finally been able to put the pedal to the metal and make some progress. Spot Callers is a wrestling game that is turn-based. It focuses on the moves and the placement of the moves instead of just randomly spamming moves. And in this game, you get to become an independent wrestler and travel around the world, obtaining money, popularity, and most of all, respect. So I really want this podcast to be casual. You know, that was probably the most formal this podcast will ever be. But I tend to make a lot of videos on my Twitch account, which I'll be, just leaving all of the information for everything, how to access anything about the game, how to contact me with requests, suggestions, questions, any of that. But I really just wanted to make sure everybody knew that we have a podcast now. And I wanted to give you a background on me, a background on the game and what got it started, and some of the goals, and finally how you can actually help out if you want to be part of this amazing process. So just to kick things off, who am I? My name is Shannon, like I said, and I'm actually a game developer who originally lived in Michigan for my entire life. And I just decided to go ahead and get a change of scenery and move to Florida, where wrestling is really booming right now. We have WWE NXT that's shot every single Wednesday on Full Sail University's campus. And, I've been able to go to a couple of those so far. So I think I've gone to 3 shows so far. And this upcoming week will be my 4th. And I actually get to feel what it's like to be in the environment as a fan of professional wrestling. And for me to be able to go and make a game based around it, it's something that blows my mind every single day. So a little more about me. How I got started in game design. I used to be active in a community called Cause.ws. It was a website where people like myself, you, and a lot of others would go and actually create wrestlers. We would create arenas, we would create move sets, create saves, and we would spend hours in this. I didn't have a job at the time, so I spent all of my free time outside of school working on creating wrestlers for video games to share with other people. So I'm what you would call a community creator. I used to just love going to these SmackDown versus Raw games, NBA games. If a game had a creation suite, I was in it and I was making some great stuff. Well, at least in my opinion, it was great. I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my work. But that is really what got me started. So I've been doing that from 2008 to 2009. And at that point in time, I was only in the 8th grade. I was transitioning from the 8th to the 9th grade. So all of the different things that I cared about in professional wrestling were also changing and evolving at the same time. And I wasn't really happy with the current product. I wasn't happy with where WWE was going. Batista was starting to suck a little bit, and it was making me sad because that was my favorite wrestler. We had the Chris Benoit situation happen, and wrestling was just in a very, very dark place in its current state. So I would spend my time in SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 making old stuff, like in 2010, SmackDown vs. Raw 2011, WWE 12, WWE 13, and some of WWE 14. I would just spend every year creating stuff from my childhood from 2005 to 2006, which was the Ruthless Aggression. And one of my favorite base games that I actually used as an inspiration was Day of Reckoning 2. So I would always, call all of my saves Day of Reckoning 3. That game never happened. So it was pretty fun for me to just call it Day of Reckoning 3. So that's really how I got started. I would just spend all of my time. You can still go and find some of my content. I used to go as Mr. McMoney, Mr. McBeermoney. Sorry, that was my computer going off. Mr. McMoney, Mr. McBeermoney, Dr. Von, and Von the Car. So all of my stuff is still online. If you Google it, you'll see a lot of Batistas, Christians, Randy Ortons, all of that stuff. So yeah, fast forward to my college years, and this had to be 2014. I was actually going to college on a full ride scholarship, and I was just not really happy with what I chose to get my degree in. I was probably in my second year, and at that point in time, I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I would go to class and do what I was supposed to do, get my grades, everything was right, and then I would go home and I would go work a job where I would sell shoes all day, and I really just wasn't happy with my life. And I knew the only thing that made me happy really was wrestling, being around wrestling, doing stuff with wrestling. And at this point in time, I had stopped watching wrestling. I really had just given it a break. So I decided to hop back into it and move back home for the summer in my sophomore year. And I was just messing around with an old TNA Impact DVD. I was looking at some old TNA Impact videos on YouTube, some tribute videos to the X Division, and it really motivated me to make my own TNA save from the 2005-2006 era. So I spent probably 3 weeks of my summer developing characters, downloading cool characters off the community creations, creating arenas, and making the logos and everything. And I was just having so much fun with this stuff. And then my brother, actually, he came over and he told me he was serious because he knew what kind of person I was, but he was really just talking. He was like, you're the type of person to make your own video game. And at that time, I really didn't understand. I didn't understand if I would actually be able to do it, but because he said something like that, it gave me a new idea to actually try. And from that moment on, for the rest of the summer, I tried to learn about video game development. I tried to learn what engines I needed to use, if that was Unity, Unreal, Construct, what was the other one back then? CryEngine, Frostbite, everything. I was trying to really figure out what I needed to learn. And eventually I realized how to make my own characters, because I reached out to somebody and asked, hey, could you make me a character? How much would it cost? And they told me $4,000. And I was like, wow, okay, well, I don't have $4,000. I don't even have $1,000 to give you for a created character. So I really had to teach myself from scratch every inch of game design over the past few years. So that summer I learned character development. I'd already been doing graphic design for like 8 or 6 years, not 8 years, about 6 years. So I've been doing graphic design for a while. So I knew that part of it. And I just started learning how to edit textures, materials. I learned how to use different softwares like FaceGen and Daz to scan faces in based on images. And I remember all of my call techniques that I used to use on cars.ws for the textures, and it all just kind of worked seamlessly for me. So after I spent about 3 or 4 months just making characters, I tried to make my own first video game, which was called at that time it was called Detroit on Fire, and I rebranded it to be called Scrap City. And I wasn't really passionate about that project. It was really just something that I was building just to get my feet wet. And it took me years to finish building it because I wasn't passionate about it. I would stop working on it for an entire year, get back to it. I was paying people to do stuff, and stuff would come back how I didn't want it to, but I didn't have the power to actually make it myself, so I didn't have any right to talk. And eventually, I released that game in 2018, and the game actually did pretty good. I had over 20,000 downloads and over a 4.5 rating on the App Store and Google Play Store. And it was at that moment that I realized, okay, it's time for me to just get focused on what I want to build, and what I want to build is a professional wrestling game. So in 2016, I actually did a couple of different things in that realm. When I was first getting started, I used to go to the House of Truth Wrestling School, which was on Van Dyke in Michigan, and I would go and talk to the trainers, talk to Truth Martini, and really just try to learn from them what it was like to be a wrestler and what the ins and outs of the ring were. And I would go to the local shows and be able to go backstage and see how it was run back there, and get to talk with the wrestlers and scan them into the game. It was a really cool experience. Even got to cap it off by doing some work with the Young Bucks. They came in and did a mocap session for the original concept of the game, and I really felt like at that moment in time, the game was coming along. It was really chugging along, but I still didn't know how to control my own project. I was paying somebody to do the programming who really didn't have enough time to dedicate to it. And I realized at that moment that the game was going to flop. And I had to reel it in, refocus my energy, and try again. So Next thing I know, I'm trying, like I said, 28, go to 2018, and I'm trying to figure out what should my new wrestling game look like. Now I know how to program. I worked at Quicken Loans for a minute, and I actually got to make some amazing games. So I made a game for Barry Sanders with a couple of my teammates, and that game had over 800,000 people play it, and it was the number one played game in Snapchat ad history. Also made a game for Infinity War, Avengers Infinity War, for our tie-in that we did as a company, and even did some augmented reality stuff with the NCAA mascots. And this is where I was really starting to hit my stride and realize, okay, I've transitioned from just being strictly an artist. I'm going to school to be an artist so I can learn more about it and really learn how to sculpt from scratch and everything. But now I'm finally learning how to program. And that is when I decided that I had all the tools I needed to make my own professional wrestling game. I could do the art, I could do the graphics, the 3D, I could do animation if I needed to. I had mocap suits if I really wanted to get that deep into it. I could do my website, I could do programming, front end, back end, database, everything. And I've also deployed multiple projects, so I finally had the confidence. And that is when this concept of spot callers came to me. I was just messing around with a bunch of different versions of wrestling games I made. I made a VR experience where you could walk around as AJ Styles. Yeah. Where you could walk around as AJ Styles and Seth Rollins. I made an animated version, which was like, I call it a digifig, which were digital action figures that you could actually move around and set the keyframes. It was actually really cool. And all of these different concepts really molded my upcoming game, which is the mix of the beginning of the game process, which was independent wrestling. It took those keyframe animation, that entire aesthetic, because that's how the game, the animations are played in the game. And then it really took that VR experience, because I looked at that as an RPG. Like, I'm putting you in the shoes of or the boots of a wrestler to see what you can do, and so you can see what that experience is like. And I'm doing the same thing with the modes that I'm adding to this game. So I really wanted to just come on here and let you all know about my journey, because I haven't done one of these yet. I've made a little bio on my website. I go on Twitch every other day, but I really wanted to get back into the podcasting community and just come on here and talk to you, because I know that there are wrestling fans out there. I know that there are passionate wrestling game fans out there, and I know that there are video game fans out there who want an alternative, and Spot Callers is that alternative. I'm trying to make an amazing wrestling game that is completely unique from anything you have ever played in your entire life, and I need your help. Now, the way you can help me is by supporting me with follows. So, social media accounts. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Discord. We have Discord chat. We also have a Twitch account, and now we have a TikTok. Now, all of these social media accounts can be found on my website, which is grindcitygamingstudio.com. Again, grindcitygamingstudio.com. That's GRINDCITYGAMINGSTUDIO@gmail.com. And I want you to just go follow me. Like, get active. Let me know what you want to see in this wrestling game before it's too late. A couple of my goals. So I actually just did an interview with Dre 41, and we actually go back a couple years back to the Cause.ws community. And he asked me an amazing question, which was, what is your goal for this game? And that was a question that it kind of came out of left field for me for some weird reason. And it was just so odd of a question that I never actually thought of. It was just something that I knew. I woke up and I knew, hey, I need to get up, go work on this game. And I really didn't know what my goal was. And then I had to think about it like, I do know what my goal is. I want to have something that I can control. I don't want to be in a job force where I don't have any control. I can get fired at any point in time for anything, just the lack of the business doing good. I want to make something that I'm in love with. Like, I want to be in love with my product, and I want to make something that is something that I'm proud of. When I see it and I see it says Spot Callers by Shannon Williams, I'm like, that's my baby right there. And speaking of my babies, like, I want to make sure I'm able to provide for my family. And I feel like this is a perfect outlet for me to do all of those things. I'm chasing my dream. And when I'm chasing my dream, I'm able to put a little more passion into it than I would anything else. And my passion equates to amazing stuff sometimes because my ideas just run rampant. Like, I come up with ideas in my sleep. Like, literally, I'm not exaggerating. I was in my dream coming up with ideas for this game. And these are the different types of things that I haven't experienced with any other project I've ever worked on. And I know it's because of my childhood love I'm sorry, I forgot how to talk for a second. It's because of my childhood love for professional wrestling, my love for wrestling video games, and my will to succeed and make something amazing. So all of these different things, they culminate into a goal for why I want to make this project successful. So yeah, that was a long tirade, a good 15-minute introduction. So I don't want to hold you all too much longer, but please make sure you just go ahead and follow me on every social media. And if you want to help me even further, if you're like, man, I'm digging this game, I'm digging the guy who's making it, whatever it is, and I just want to support, I have a Patreon, and the Patreon is also Spot Callers. And you can go on my Patreon and pledge a certain amount, whatever you want. And depending on what you pledge, you actually get specific rewards. So I'll be letting you in on specific ideas that I have for development. You can help decide what are the next moves I'll create. You can get custom action figures, custom move cards, all of these different things, even merch that I plan on letting you all access as soon as possible. Like, as soon as you want to just start joining in, please feel free. And the other thing you can do to really help me out is spread the word. Spread the word. Let everybody know that there's a new wrestling game coming out. There are a lot of new wrestling games coming out, but there's a wrestling game from the community for the community. Now, that's the end. I'm going to end it there. So, y'all have a great day. Have a great night. Have a great life. And please make sure you tune back in when I drop more podcasts. All right? Peace.